Rain pattered softly against the hospital window as CEO Richard Coleman sat beside his daughter's bed, watching the steady rhythm of the machines keeping her alive. 18-year-old Emily had once been full of energy, a graceful dancer whose laughter filled their New York home. But after the car accident that left her paralyzed from the waist down, that light had vanished. Now she stared blankly at the ceiling, refusing therapy, refusing hope. Richard, a man who built billion-dollar companies and solved impossible problems, found himself powerless. He had tried everything, private doctors, foreign specialists, experimental treatments, but nothing reached her. Late one evening, as the city lights shimmered outside the hospital, he overheard her whisper, "What's the point, Dad?" The words pierced him deeper than any loss he'd ever known. He realized that money couldn't buy back her smile or her will to live. The empire he had built suddenly felt meaningless. That night, as he sat alone in the corridor, his heart heavy with regret, a nurse approached him with a new name. "A therapist just transferred in," she said softly. "Jack Miller. He's different." Richard didn't know it yet, but that name would change everything. For Emily, for him. And for what he believed, Jack Miller entered Emily's hospital room with an easy calm that contrasted the sterile air around them. He didn't speak in the usual clinical tone, and he didn't look at her as a patient. "Hi, Emily," he said gently. "I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to remind you what you're still capable of." She turned her face away, uninterested. Most therapists gave her sympathy. Jack gave her honesty. Over the next few days, he told her stories about his daughter Lily, who was born with a heart condition. "She taught me that pain isn't the end," he said. "It's the start of something different." Emily scoffed at first, but Jack never pushed too hard. He brought music into their sessions, let her choose the songs, and made her laugh when she didn't want to. Slowly, she began to respond, even if only to argue. Richard noticed the change from the hallway, the small smiles, the spark returning to her eyes. Late one night, he found Jack cleaning up the therapy room alone. "Why do you care so much?" Richard asked quietly. Jack looked up and said, "Because I know what it's like to watch someone you love lose hope. I won't let it happen again." Weeks passed, and Emily's progress amazed everyone at the hospital. She could move her legs slightly now, small twitches that doctors once said would never happen. But the real miracle wasn't in her muscles. It was in her spirit. She laughed again, made jokes with the nurses, and painted her wheelchair with bright yellow sunflowers. Jack's idea. Richard began spending more time at the rehab center, drawn not only by his daughter's recovery, but by the quiet strength he saw in Jack. They started sharing coffee in the cafeteria, their conversations drifting from medicine to fatherhood to the cost of chasing success. Jack told him about losing his wife 3 years ago and raising Lily alone. "She keeps me grounded," he said with a soft smile. Richard saw something genuine in him, something he'd lost long ago, compassion untouched by ambition. One afternoon, during a therapy session, Emily tried to stand but fell hard. Jack rushed to help, but she stopped him. "No, I can do it." Her legs shook, but she stood trembling and crying. Richard's vision blurred with tears. For the first time, he wasn't just watching his daughter fight to walk. He was watching her learn to live again. About healing. 6 months later, sunlight streamed across the rehab center courtyard as Emily stood beside her wheelchair, gripping her walker with steady hands. Her father, Jack, and little Lily watched from a few steps away, holding their breath. Slowly, she took one step, then another. Each movement was shaky but full of determination. When she finally reached Jack, she threw her arms around him, whispering through tears, "You kept your promise." Jack smiled, his eyes wet. Richard stepped forward, his voice trembling. "I can never repay you for what you've done." Jack shook his head. "You already have. You believed in her again." That evening, Richard invited Jack and Lily to his home for dinner. The grand house, once silent and cold, filled with laughter, music, and warmth. Emily played guitar, while Lily sang softly beside her, and Richard felt something he hadn't in years, peace. A few months later, at a charity gala, Emily performed a dance from her wheelchair, radiating grace and strength. Jack stood in the crowd, proud and silent. As the audience rose to applaud, Richard turned to him, his voice low with gratitude. "You saved her, Jack." Jack smiled and replied, "No, Richard, she saved herself. I just reminded her how